Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Right now, negotiations are about to be finalized for British heavyweight David Price to fight Michael Grant in South Africa next February. Now, let me make a few points. First, you've got to be kidding me. In an earlier video, I made the argument that David Price should be fighting a Klitschko. What I want the public to do is to really ask themselves, is Manuel Charr, who's going to be fighting Vitaly Klitschko, better than David Price? I would say no. Right? In my opinion, Price beats Charr, and in my opinion, Price would have given Vitaly Klitschko a nice test on his way out. Let me also point out that Vitaly Klitschko is thinking of leaving the sport. Right after this fight, he might have one more fight against David Haye if the two sides can work out the deal. Right now, what that means is that if you don't fight Vitaly Klitschko now, you're never going to fight him. Right? Also, let me state the obvious. If you wanted to fight an older Vitaly Klitschko, who's a little bit past his prime, well, now would be the time to fight him. Right? Vitaly Klitschko actually had a shoulder problem as recently as the Derek Chisora fight. Now, instead, David Price has decided to fight a guy with a big punch, right? A guy who recently knocked out the White Buffalo, Francois Botha, right? A guy with a punch, and he's going to fight him, right, away from British soil. Who thought this one up? Why is this fight better? Understand that if he were to fight Vitaly Klitschko, he would literally be one punch away from the heavyweight championship. And we're talking about a guy with a big punch. Not only that, if you fight Vitaly Klitschko, if you have any great moments, if he slips in and has Vitaly holding on to him after he lands some big punches on Vitaly, right? If Vitaly hits the canvas, even if he gets off the canvas and goes on to win the fight, if you're just close to Klitschko, in other words, if it's a 7-5 fight, or a 6-5-1 fight, or if some decent percentage of the riders at ringside feel that, you've been robbed after the decision, then that would help David Price's legacy as much as Vitaly Klitschko's solid showing a boxing generation ago against champion Lennox Lewis helped Vitaly Klitschko's resume. Right? Instead, David Price is risking it to fight a big puncher in exactly the kind of fight that if he slips up, it could set back his career for literally 2 years. I mean, understand, if Michael Grant connects on David Price, and if David Price gets knocked out, and if Vitaly Klitschko leaves the sport, and if there's a box-off for his successor, he's going to be at the back of the line, right? You have a lot of heavyweights, some of whom haven't hit the public consciousness yet. Dennis Boystoff, for example, right, who would love a shot at the heavyweight title. And if any one of them slip up, right, if David Haye, for example, were to get knocked out, it would literally set back his career a year and a half. Just like right now, Derek Chisora has gone from fighting the Vitaly Klitschko's and the David Hayes of the world to now having to pick up the pieces. Right now, let's talk about this fight. I believe that David Price should win it. Right? He should win it for one basic reason. Other than Audley Harrison, I can't name another heavyweight in the heavyweight division who, in my opinion, has slower foot speed than Michael Grant. You know, not all big men are created equal. Michael Grant, who has a big punch, in my opinion, can barely move. Take a look at the film of the Michael Grant-Tomas Ademic fight. Ademic's literally circling Grant. Grant just can't catch up with him. Now, David Price, one of the secrets of his success is he's a great athlete. Right? So he can actually move. He can actually stay outside. My strong recommendation to David Price is that he stay outside. Fight this fight on his back foot. Unless he sees a clear punch, just go in there, outbox Michael Grant, win by a wide decision. Let me point out, Francois Botha was on the verge of beating Michael Grant. He was ahead on the scorecards, right? He had outboxed Grant the majority of that fight. But of course, this is boxing. One punch can change an outcome. And Michael Grant, in the last round of that Botha fight, was able to deliver the punch to knock out Botha. Now, Botha obviously is much older than David Price. But David Price, in my opinion, has a hand speed advantage. But more importantly, he has a foot speed advantage. He has a long reach. All he has to do to win this fight is to just stick and move. Make his jab a problem for Michael Grant. Michael Grant is not that elusive. He's not that gifted defensively. He's one of these big guys who's accustomed to dictating the terms in the fight. Right? He comes in, it's a shootout, he knocks you out. Right? If you're mobile, you already have the advantage on him. Right? All Price has to do is fight off his back foot. He wins the fight easily. Right? The one thing, though, you need to look out for with Michael Grant, as evidenced by the Botha fight, is that he has power for all 10 or 12 rounds, depending on the distance of the fight. Right? Michael Grant also has the ability to go the distance, even now, late in his career. Right? He went the distance against Tomas Ademic. He was on his way to going the distance against Francois Botha. Right? He's a guy who's not going to pucker out after 5 or 6 rounds. So, David Price, who is not fighting for the heavyweight title, seems to have passed up the opportunity to take a crack at Vitaly Klitschko. Didn't even call out Vitaly Klitschko. And of course, what people don't realize is Price is 29, 30 years old. He's not 21. He's not 22. Don't confuse him with the guys who are just coming out of the Olympics. So when I hear people say he's not ready to fight a Klitschko, all I can say is he certainly has the punch. He certainly has the athleticism. And if you're going to take risks, I think it's better for you to take those risks against the heavyweight champ than to take risks against some banger who doesn't have a title. Right? Also, just common sense. Right? If you want big names on your resume before they retire, you need to fight them while you can. I think Saul Alvarez at 154 pounds has the right idea. Right? He wants to fight Floyd Mayweather. He even gave an interview where he talked about fighting Sergio Martinez. Right? The point is simply, when great fighters are 35 and older and are financially secure and can literally walk away from the sport at any time, and when there's someone like Vitaly Klitschko who you know has an interest in politics and in fact is running for public office, right? So his argument that he's leaving the sport is actually supported by his actions in running a political campaign. Then I have no idea what you're doing taking on dangerous opponents with knockout punches instead of fighting for the heavyweight title, right? At a minimum, in my opinion, and I'm old school, Price should have made it difficult for Vitaly to fight Manuel Char, just like David Haye has made it difficult by showing up at press conferences as Haye did before the Haye Chisora dust up at the press conference, right? You show up at press conferences, you say, hey, when are you going to fight me? You talk to members of the press, you say, hey, I want to fight the champ. What's he dodging? Right? You talk to your management, you talk to promoters, you have them try to put together a compelling package that a champ might think, hey, the money's too big to turn down. Okay, this guy has a following in the United Kingdom. Let me travel to London. Let me travel to his backyard. Let's get the sellout. Let's remember, Haye Chisora got more than 30,000 people. Right? Let me go to London. Let me get the sellout. Or let me give him an invitation to fight me. After all, Vitaly is the champ. To fight me in Germany or wherever I'm comfortable before I call it a career. But understand, to do it this way, where Price is now going to be fighting a guy with a big punch. Granted, Grant is older, he's past his prime, and he can't move. But all I can say is, he's knocked out guys like Francois Botha, right? I don't believe there's any such thing in boxing as a tune-up fight. These guys you're fighting who have big punches have spent their careers knocking guys out. All of those guys are dangerous. Understand, Michael Grant is literally one punch away, if he's lucky, from ending Price's unbeaten streak and putting himself back in the heavyweight sweepstakes. The way I'm going to play this at the casino is I'm going to take Price to win. But I'm going to hedge it with Grant by KO. Right? Why? Because that's how Grant wins fights. Let me go one step further too. Let's be real. David Price doesn't have a lot of experience going the distance. Just food for thought. If Price has a question in the back of his head about his ability to go the distance, well, my point is it's better to take that risk against the heavyweight champ so that he can come in the fight and say, okay, I'm going to go all out against the heavyweight champ for 5 rounds. I'm going to take my chances and hopefully try to grab the lead or grab this guy's title. It's better to do that against a champ, in my opinion, than it is to have those doubts, hop in the ring against a guy with a big punch, and then end up getting stopped in the 8th, 9th, 10th rounds by a guy who, quite frankly, knocked out Botha in the last round, closing moments of that fight. I like Price in this one, but again, I question his choice of opponent. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for watching.